Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Tuesday, June 17th. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And we've got a special episode for you today. Recently, a MLB play ball weekend was held in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut by the Winnipeg Goldeyes. And we are joined by Goldeyes General Manager Andrew Collier to discuss the trip and go over the unique opportunity that the Goldeyes had to travel up north. Andrew, thanks so much for taking the time to do this today.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. This is exciting. I've watched some of your stuff, and it's a lot of Blue Jay stuff. So we're happy to get some Gold Eyes content on there.
Amazing. I know Jory is a little more Winnipeg inclined than I am, but yeah, always enjoy keeping up with the Goldeyes. Obviously very cool to have a team north of the border that plays such high level ball. So we can jump right into it here though. Obviously for you guys, a really exciting trip up north. What was that like for you? I mean, for you being one of the members of the Goldeyes that went up there. Tell us a little bit about the trip and what it was like to travel up there.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, and just to go back a few years when the American Association and some of the other independent leagues became partner leagues with MLB. MLB has been doing these play ball weekends for years and invited us to do the same. So when the email came out about this 3 years ago, um, I have a good friend who's the president of Calm Air, which flies up north, and we had been talking earlier about doing a camp somewhere in the north. So when I got the email about play ball weekend, I approached him and said, "Hey, let's go somewhere on this weekend." So 3 years ago, we went to Thompson, Manitoba, for a day, and then last year we went to Flin Flon and the Paw. We did a two day event, running two camps up there. And then as we were flying back from the Paw last year, Gary Bell, president of Comair, said we should go to Rankin Inlet next year. And I'm like, well, that would be very cool. So if you look on a map, it is way up there. Like
Yeah.
you think Churchill is very far north. Well, Rankin Inlet is a lot further north than that. So just to have the opportunity to go up with representatives of Baseball Manitoba, we had our team was on the road this past weekend, so we had Donnie Smith, an alumni, Winnipeg Goldeyes pitcher, has his number retired by the Goldeyes. So Baseball Manitoba clinicians, Donnie Smith, one of the pilots from Comair, went up. Him and his son. His son plays college ball. Myself and Jason Young, our communications director, and spent the day in Rankin Inlet. Put on a clinic for 50 kids. It was pretty neat. The field they have is artificial turf infield
Okay.
and then gravel outfield.
Oh wow.
And if you see any of the photos in the background, you can see the ice on the ocean, and the wind was coming in off the ocean. It was pretty chilly. It was about 9 degrees out, but with that wind, I'm sure it was below zero. But the
That's
kids, the kids had a great time. We had a 3 hour camp and nobody left. Everybody stuck it out and really had a good time. And yeah, I'm glad we did it.
No, that's incredible. I mean, I would just be curious to hear more about the day itself and more about just baseball up there, right? Because you talked about they've got the artificial turf in the field there. That's incredible and so far north too.
Yeah, they have a baseball program up there. I'm sure it's a shorter season than most places, but it's a nice field. Um, yeah, there's some kids with some skills up there, so obviously they're playing, and the recreation director up there was very helpful. They had a ton of equipment because a lot of these kids didn't have gloves, but they provided the gloves. We brought up the hitting nets and baseballs and bases and cones for running drills. But yeah, it was a full day. We left Winnipeg at just after 8 in the morning, got to Rankin Inlet just before 11, had some lunch, went to the field, did the camp, went and had dinner, and then flew back, and we were
Wow.
home by 10:30 at night back in Winnipeg.
That's awesome. Like just an amazing experience too, to do it all in a day too. I think, you mentioned like 50 kids is a really great turnout as well. I know the camp was for kids aged 5 to 12. So really awesome that you got a great turnout. Is there kind of any specific moment from any of the kids or anything that you got to experience that stands out specifically to you?
Um, you know what? Just the fact that they stuck it out for all 3 hours. Like the wind was howling. It was not pleasant, but nobody complained. They had a great time. I just found it interesting talking to some of the parents about life in Rankin Inlet and how they how they fish and hunt, not for business, but for themselves, like hunt fishing and hunting seals and walruses and caribou and wolves and wolverines and not just for sport. This is what they do for food for their family. It was an eye opener for me. I had no idea what to expect. Obviously, I had seen pictures before we went up there, but it was a pretty cool experience.
For sure, very special, right? And I think also just the ability to just connect with them and just generally just grow the game kind of up there, right? And I would be curious in your perspective. I'm sure for you, there's a certain kind of joy you get out of that, the opportunity to not necessarily introduce the kids to baseball, but certainly introduce them to a higher level of baseball maybe than they would be accustomed to being able to kind of interact with, I'm sure.
Yeah, just like in Thompson, Flim Flon, and the Paw, just exposing kids to that higher level of baseball. Each time we've gone to these places, we've taken players that have played a high level of professional baseball and to expose these kids to the skills that they otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity. When MLB play ball weekend came out, the opportunity to run a camp at the ballpark existed, but I thought kids in Winnipeg are exposed to these kind of camps all the time, whereas in the north they just don't get these kind of opportunities. The same parent that I talked to about what what they do to hunting and fishing, she showed me a picture of being at a Goldeyes game
Oh,
with her
wow.
kids with Goldie and Gold Hat. That was very cool that
Wow.
we weren't just going up there and these kids were saying, who are these people
Yeah.
and why are they here? They know about the Goldeyes and they've been to games. There's actually two flights a day between Rankin Inlet and Winnipeg. Um, every day every day of the week, one flight on Saturdays, but the plane we took, half of it is cargo and half of it is passengers. It's a really unique plane, um, because the only way to get goods to Rankin Inlet is either by plane or by barge.
That's
So
incredible.
if you want anything up there, that's pretty much how it gets there is this plane. And as we were getting off the plane, a four-wheelers being offloaded off the plane as on the same plane that we flew up on. So that was pretty cool.
Obviously, getting the chance to grow the game of baseball across Canada, across Manitoba, is something that's very important to all of us, I would say. But for you, kind of with the opportunity to do it, in your role as the GM of the Goldeyes, like how has that become so important as such an important part of your job, and why is it something that you want to continue doing?
I think, yeah, we're in a unique position to be able to, so like you said, grow the game between us and Baseball Manitoba. We're just trying to get as many kids as possible right from Rally Cap and up, get them in at Rally Cap and get them to stay in the game as they grow. There's so many options for kids when they're young. There's soccer, lacrosse, you name it. We want as many kids as possible to play Rally Cap, and there's so many great coaches. It's usually the parents at Rally Cap that step up and volunteer to be coaches of Rally Cap. Um, yeah, so through Baseball Canada and Baseball Manitoba and the Goldeyes, just doing what we can to get as many kids as possible into the game. And who knows, you get the next James Paxton or Donnie Smith or you name it, Max Poulin, who played shortstop for us for a number of years. Um, there's a lot of great Canadian baseball players, and it all starts at that grassroots level.
Yeah, it's a really cool opportunity for sure. Going back to some of the kids that showed up, I'm curious, what was kind of their reception to you guys, and what was what was kind of their engagement level with the camp, and how much they kind of just enjoyed getting the opportunity to participate.
Yeah, they were all very well behaved. They were listening to everything that the Baseball Manitoba coaches and clinicians were saying. I would say that last half hour after we had been out there 2.5, it was getting a little crazy. Baseballs were flying everywhere. So
Yeah.
that's when it was time to wind things down. They had been out there a long time and keeping their attention span for that long, I thought was pretty good. But yeah, that last half hour was kind of mayhem, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the best for sure.
What kind of sense did you get from the kids in general, just their reception as far as excitement, as far as engagement, as far as hopes of continuing to pursue baseball?
Yeah, there was varying degrees of skill level and interest. For the most part, they all wanted to be there. I don't think there was anyone that their parents just dropped them off and said, "Here, you're going to a baseball camp." I think everybody there wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a wide range of age levels, so we split them up into the younger kids and older kids. But yeah, there were some kids with some good skill. You could tell that they've done a good job up there of introducing the game to the kids. And then the younger ones, there was some that had never worn a glove. They didn't know which hand to put it on. And halfway through the day, they changed hands because they figured out that they're right-handed or left-handed, or one of their parents on the side would yell at them and say, "You're left-handed, not right-handed. Get a different glove." So that was yeah, it was all over the map as far as skill level, but the interest was there and they weren't in school, so
Yeah.
that's always a bonus for the kids.
Yeah. Much better to be out on the field than in a classroom for sure. Just reading, some stuff around the trip, a story from the Nunavut News, they talked about how baseball has grown bigger there than it has ever been, and that they said that the Blue Jays have had an impact on that. How do you kind of see that for them? How much baseball is plays a part in their community, and how much that you see. You mentioned the parent showing you the pic of at a Goldeyes game, but I mean, kind of how do you see like the role that baseball plays in that community?
Yeah, I would say just like a lot of the northern communities, hockey's number one. They just
Yeah.
built a brand new arena
Oh,
a couple
nice.
of years ago, and but in the summer they turf it where they can do some indoor baseball skills. They can play soccer in there. But yeah, it's good to see that there is that much interest in baseball, and hopefully it continues to grow, and hopefully we played a small part of it. Like you said, the Blue Jays have been instrumental in growing the game in Canada. They have the big name and the resources to get out there, which is great, and we just want to supplement that.
In your eyes, why do you feel it's kind of important for the Goldeyes to be such a key part in growing the game in Canada?
Yeah, I think we are very established in Winnipeg, but we're we're more of Manitoba's team and even more than Manitoba. We have fans from Ontario and Saskatchewan that come to games, and we just want to make sure that we don't suffer from perimeter-itis and think that our fans only exist within
Yeah.
Manitoba. I think a couple of years ago, we did a survey, and one-third of all the fans that come to our games are from outside of the
Okay.
perimeter of Winnipeg. So we want to make sure that our voice is heard beyond Winnipeg, out in Brandon and Portage and southern Manitoba. Southern Manitoba is a baseball hotbed. There's a reason why the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame is in Morden, Manitoba, which and not in Winnipeg. Morden, Winkler, Altona, all these southern communities are huge into baseball, and there's some been really, really good baseball players that have come out of there.
So I know you're like just recently having wrapped up this trip and gotten back to Winnipeg and you know kind of the season is I'm sure kind of your focus going forward here. But what's kind of next for you guys as far as it goes, you know, community outreach wise? Like is there kind of any other trips in the works here?
We will have a couple of camps at the ballpark here for kids in Winnipeg and around Winnipeg, where the Goldeyes players will host that. But talking to Gary Bell, president of Comair, and none of this is possible without Comair's support.
Yeah.
They provide the airfare to go up there. He's already talked about going to Churchill next year
Oh, nice.
and combining it with the sightseeing and maybe seeing some polar bears or beluga whales or so he's already planning for next year too. And I think that would be pretty cool to get up to Churchill. I've never been there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Obviously, you know, one of the premier, I think, tourist or destination spots in Canada. So getting there would be really fun.
And they have I've been told a brand new diamond
Oh,
that
nice.
that we would be able to run the camp on. So that would be great.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I guess kind of with that, you know, planning another trip or kind of looking um for forward here. What have you kind of enjoyed most about your trips that you makes you kind of want to you know keep on traveling elsewhere to do this?
Just the reception that we've got everywhere we've gone. If I ever felt that we were forcing the camps on communities that didn't really want us, then that would probably change my mind about doing it in the future. But every place we've been has been a great response, and you can't do things like this without somebody in that community taking the lead and making sure the registration forms get out. When
Yeah.
we were driving around, we saw posters all over that talked about the camp. It had a QR code that you could scan to get the link and get registered for it. So yeah, as long as we keep going places that they want us there, then we'll keep doing it.
No,
That's awesome.
fantastic, fantastic for sure. I just shifting gears a tiny bit, but still on the kind of topic. I'd be curious for you in terms of the city of Winnipeg and the growth maybe there as well, because we've obviously talked about some of these other cities, but Winnipeg, I'm sure as well has benefited immensely from you guys obviously having success in recent years and even just growing the game in Winnipeg as a whole. And I'd be curious to hear kind of where the world of baseball kind of exists in the psyche of kind of Winnipeg sports fandom.
Um, I, I I'd like to think it's grown because of our presence here. I don't think registration ever grows as much as when the Blue Jays do very well. There's we've seen Baseball Canada, Baseball Manitoba numbers after they won the World Series in 92, 93. The numbers of registration skyrocketed after that. Even in 2015, when they went to the ALCS, numbers the following year jumped up again. Um, but I think at a grassroots level, having a place for kids to come and watch professional baseball players, and you never know who they might see. It could be Kansas City was just here last week. They had six former major leaguers on the team. So these are really good baseball players, and some might make it back to the major leagues. Some might get there. We had third baseman signed by the Giants. He's currently at high A right now, Dason Cruz. So he could be a guy that right out of college played for the Goldeyes for a couple of years and now might make his way. So if he ever does appear in a Giants game, kids will say, "Hey, I saw that guy
Yeah.
play at Blue Cross Park." So I think that helps grow the game. But I, I I don't have any numbers to back that up, but I got to think that it does.
This episode of the Bird's Eye View podcast is brought to you by BioSteel. Use code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order at biosteel.ca. Again, that's code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order. For all your high performance hydration needs, visit biosteel.ca. Thank you again to BioSteel for sponsoring today's episode.
Being from Calgary and having, like a professional team like the Vipers, as I grew up, I can say obviously played a big role in me being involved in baseball. So I'm sure, having the Goldeyes is amazing for kids and for the community there. I think we'd be a little remiss to let you run today without talking about this year's team. Obviously, I think, you kind of take a look through the roster. Some definitely some notable names, like a bunch of guys who were on the 2023 World Baseball Classic team, which is super fun. Trevor Brigden, Benny Onishko, and Jacob Robson. So really fun there. But I mean, overall, how is the season going so far, and how are things going recently?
I get asked that all the time, and my answer so far this year is we're a work in progress.
Yeah.
We had a lot of more pitching injuries coming into this season than I've ever seen, our field managers ever seen. So there's been a lot of scrambling to find pitching. I think we've solidified our starting rotation now. Our bullpen has been solid. Um, our 1 through 9 are starting to get settled. We have Max Murphy, who's been with us for a few years, who just set the Goldeyes home run record, held by Reggie Abercrombie. He passed Reggie when we were on the road. Um, so yeah, we went 4-2 on this last road trip, and anytime you can win more than you lose on the road, that's always a good thing. People always say you want to go 500 on the road and 750 at home. So now we just need to do the 750 at home part, and
Yeah.
we'll get back to where we need to be. We're 3 games below 500 right now, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. For you, kind of with the roster, you mentioned, a couple of the guys who have been standing out there. I think, for just looking through the roster, but is there kind of any players that you've enjoyed having on the team this year, or any newcomers?
Well, Max Murphy is just such a great guy. He's a quiet guy, just leads by example, just goes out there and plays a great right field. And is hitting very well last year. Last year, I think um, he would admit it wasn't his best year. He had a long winter in Mexico and then spring in Mexico and then a long season. So coming into this year, he's fresh. He's playing really well. Landon Barassa from Lethbridge, Alberta. I think this is 4th or 5th year with us. I just like watching him work on the mound. He works fast. He throws strikes. I think he threw an hour 50 game this year, complete game. He just gets on the mound, throws the ball, challenges hitters, lets the defense do the work. Doesn't walk a ton of guys. I think his last start he didn't have any walks. Mitch Lamson, he keeps doing it. I think he's 34 now. He was just named pitcher of the week. Same thing, just throw strikes, don't walk people, let the defense do the work. Um, yeah, it's been having so many Canadians is
Yeah.
great too. That that doesn't go into Logan's plan. Logan Watkins, our manager, that he wants the best team on the field. If they happen to be Canadian, that's great. But to have Anishko and Robson and Barassa and Brigden, yeah, it's been awesome having those guys here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask too. Like, I'm glad that you brought it up. Having, the Canadians who kind of come from all over. You mentioned Barassa from Alberta, a bunch of guys from Ontario. Of course, you have some of the hometown guys there as well. Some of the guys from Manitoba. What is the reception like from the Canadian guys, and how they are able to get to play professional baseball north of the border, which is an opportunity that only exists in Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vancouver now.
And Ottawa
Sorry, yes, Ottawa as well.
um yeah, they love it. Like comments I've heard, they've had the opportunity to play professional baseball all over, but to be able to play in Canada, I think it's pretty special for them. And for Anishko to be able to play in his hometown where he grew up playing is, I think it's pretty special to him.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Well, Andrew, we really appreciate you giving us so much of your time. Was awesome to get a little bit of a inside look at your trip, and hear more about the baseball up north. And we really, yeah, really do appreciate you joining us. And we wish you the best of luck going forward. And we'll be following along the rest of this Goldeye season and following along for any future trips for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
That is Andrew Collier, the general manager of the Winnipeg Goldeyes of the American Association of Professional Baseball. That is going to do it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View podcast. If you're listening along on the podcast provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter. And the pod is at BEB_pod. Thank you so much for listening.